Come along, rise and shine. Come along and rise and shine. Come on and shine. Come along and ride on a life walk a journey. Life walk a journey. Yeah. Come along and ride on a life walk a journey. Yeah.
Welcome to this episode of the Sunday Soul Podcast. I am your host, Dr. Lisa Brewer, and I have another friend of mine with me today, Katherine Loranger. Yes, that's Loranger, yes. Of Katalyst, founder and CEO of Katalyst Coaching. So excited to have you with us today, Katherine. How are you?
Lisa, I'm like freaking fantastic, girl. How are you?
I'm great. I am great. Much better now that we're talking. I'm fabulous. I've been looking forward to this for a while now. So very excited. Katherine is another powerful divine goddess. And as you know, we have the goddesses on this podcast on a regular basis. However, every goddess has her backstory. So, Katherine, can you share with us, how did you get here to Katalyst Coaching and the fabulousness that you are?
Lisa, I love you. You oh my God, you're amazing. You're amazing. I'm so grateful to be here with you and with your community. And my heart is just like wide open with appreciation. And how long we got for the backstory?
Well, give us the bullets.
Okay, I'll give you the bull. I'll give you like a high level bullet point. So I kind of I actually have like a little flat spot on the back of my head, and I joke that I came on to the physical plane this time with the decision that I was going to do it the hard way, like banging my head against the wall, right? And so I'm turning 50 in 2 weeks. So I know, thank you. So I've had patterns showing up in my life where I'm choosing the hard way. And, it's interesting because I've been studying transformation, self-development, self-growth for over, like 26 years now. I have a master's in counseling and some degrees and have done lots of things. And it's only been in the last couple of years where it's really, really kind of come together and clicked for me. And so I've navigated lots of content. I had, major depression most of my life. Most of my adult life was suicidal. Had, the trauma, tick, tick, tick. You can kind of tick off the boxes. And for much of my life, believed that I was fundamentally flawed, that there was something inherently wrong with me, that everybody else on the planet was deserving of love and happiness and joy and all of that stuff, and that something about me was different. And what I've actually learned is that many people feel that way. Many people feel that way. Right. And I think, and I've had some like really profound spiritual experiences, and we can, kind of get into that if the conversation goes there. But what the kind of, I guess the catalyst is my husband and I, my beloved husband, we were in business for many years together. We had grown a really successful multi-7-figure construction company. So heavy industrial construction and maintenance. And, when I was really honest with myself, it wasn't how I wanted to bring my gifts and talents to the world. It wasn't how I wanted to serve people. And so we tried to make the business, where people felt fully empowered to bring them full selves to work, where they're showing up like fully aligned, they're integrated, and then they're like going home to their families and they're being this like, better version of them, and it has this impact on their community. And this is all in like heavy industrial construction, right? So talk about, you're like, really? Talk about doing it the hard way. Talk about doing it the hard way. So for people who are listening, I'm making like and you can't see the picture here. There's like, my hands, there's this big gap between them, right? That we're really wanting this, but it's just, this is not the place to do it, right? You're not aligned with the how. And so I got really clear on some of the elements that I wanted in my life. And I actually have a vision board right there that I created as part of this process, where I really started to tune into listening authentically to what I wanted, and I've got things like dare to be bold, feeling wow, let there be light, rise above, possibilities, live big, why settle for one adventure, and all of these beautiful images. And so I created this vision board, and then in the middle of it is this image of a luminous light being with like angelic wings and rays of light coming out. And then I put words around it because it wasn't quite done. So community, abundance, love, service, spirituality, and gratitude. And I was like, this is my life. This is what I want for my life. And I didn't know the how, I didn't know the what, but I sure knew that what I was doing, and there were lots of great things about it, but it wasn't working, and I found myself kind of caught up in this when then game. And for me, it sounded like, well, when the business, can afford to have me not actively part of running it, then I'll go do what I want. Or when my husband can kind of do it all by himself, then I'll follow my dreams, or when the bank account looks like this, then. And so I was in this pattern of really putting off what I wanted, right? And kind of also even ignoring it a little bit, because it was, in some ways it's too painful to really take that honest look and see like, oh, like this is really what I want, and this is what I'm doing. And I feel kind of like trapped here, and not trapped like horrible, but like I feel like there's not really a lot of choices about how to navigate out of it. And so what I know, like I know this, is that the universe whispers to us, our soul life whispers, and when we ignore it, it doesn't go away, it turns up the volume. And that flat spot on my head is from so many times that the volume was turned up. And so in this situation, the way that it turned up the volume was that we had a major client go bankrupt, and they owed us a lot of money, and we had to close our business.
Wow.
Yeah. And it was, I can remember many moments after everybody left for the day, just like falling on the floor and crying in the office, because I just desperate, didn't know what to do, how to fix this. I'd been such a ninja, right, at kind of fixing things.
Yeah.
And I couldn't fix this.
Yeah.
And so we went through this process, and when you've got a huge receivable, there's a period of time where you're trying to collect and you're working with the client, and right, it's not like it's like one day it's good and the next day it's not. Like it's this kind of time frame that you're navigating this. And whatever people navigate their challenges, there's a time frame that they go through. And so in January 2020, we closed our business. February 14th, 2020, Valentine's Day, my husband left for a job in Mali, Africa. I went to visit my mom and support her through cancer treatment. And then, of course, we went through a global pandemic. So, and my mom passed away. So we lost our business. My husband's stuck in Africa. My mom's passed away. And yet through all of that, there was a part of me that fully knew that this was happening for me. This was, yeah.
Yes. Okay. There's a ton to unpack here.
Right? And that was just like the Coles Notes version.
Yeah, there's a ton to unpack here, but I'm going to pick out some of the themes, because I believe that there's a lot of people that are listening to this, that if they can identify the times where they were incongruent, they can see where the universe, God, creator, source, the all, whichever name you've assigned, was really attempting to move us into congruency, which we could also call balance.
Yeah.
I think at least, and for me, we all go through these similar kind of situations where we're doing this day thing or this other thing. We're putting our energy there. Only our heart is
Mm-hmm.
desperately
Mm-hmm.
singing this voice, this song. And it's this song of freedom and this song of fulfillment and this song of it's interesting now I'm thinking Song of Ice and Fire, but it kind of is. Like
Yeah.
it's this song of just like I've got to break out and be this phoenix that I'm truly meant to be. Only you're right. A lot of times because of the programming that we've been given, that maybe we have to work this 9 to 5, or just because of the life we've created, we think that there's no way we can actually let this song just rise
Mm-hmm.
and be this beautiful melody that the entire earth hears, that beautiful song and vibration and frequency of who we truly are. And and we think that we have to just kind of, well, we'll put it over here.
Yeah.
But then things happen where we don't have a choice
Mm-hmm.
any longer,
Mm-hmm.
but to belt that song out so the world can hear it.
Mm-hmm.
So in the midst of all of this, the pandemic, the business closes a month or two prior. Your husband's over in Africa. Your mom passes away, and I'm sorry for your loss. In the midst of all this, how did you find the courage and the strength to let your song be sung, to let that finally come out of your very being?
Great question. You know, I've had really profound mystical experiences throughout my life, and times where I have been fully connected to, guided by the divine in that flow state, and I would have those moments, and I would fall asleep again, right? I wouldn't be able to kind of like not hold on to it, but to really be able to kind of live my life with that knowing in the same way.
Mm-hmm.
And I've had a great life, right? Like, yes, I've had content that I've navigated, but I've really had a great life. And when this all happened, it really was like the phoenix, right? This, like, the universe is coming in and saying, you know what? I've heard you. I've been here all along. And this is the fastest way to just clear the slate, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so while I'm navigating all of this, and my husband knew, what my dream was, to serve the world in a new way. And I was thinking about coaching for quite a few years. And like I said, I've got a master's in counseling. I've done lots of leadership things, and, kind of worked at yeah, I've done it in other
Yeah.
ways. And so he actually sent me an email about a program that, when I looked into it, I was like, oh, these are my people. These are my people. Oh my God, there they are. Right? And
Oh.
and they talked about luminous light beings. And I have that image, which I didn't even know what it was, of a luminous light being on my vision board. And so what I love about it, what I loved about it, is it integrated not just um, proven, repeatable, reliable systems, because I have, done lots of school, so that the science is important to me, the efficacy. Like, if I'm going to be doing something, I want to know that it's going to work for people if they go through the process. That was, like, so important to me. And so it does, right? The woman, Mary Morrissey, who founded it, so she's my mentor and teacher. She
Mm.
was she was one of only 3 people ever mentored by Jack Boland. So Les Brown, Wayne Dyer, and Mary Morrissey, right? That's kind of her lineage. And so she's my teacher and mentor, and her team, her faculty, her program is phenomenal. She's of course an ordained minister. She's also got a master's in counseling and has been in this work for over 50 years. And so for me it was so key to find something that really had that depth behind it. And so when I read about it, I looked into it, I researched it, and I'm like, this is it, right? This is it. This is where I'm meant to be. And so I said yes to myself. I invested to be certified and very rigorous, and I've been to school a lot, so I know what that rigor looks like, and it had
Mm-hmm.
that. And yeah, and since then it's just been like I get kind of emotional thinking about how my life has really shifted, how it's just coming into greater alignment, and not just for me, but the people that I'm just so lucky to work with. Like I'm
Yeah.
so lucky to see the growth in my clients and my husband. Like he's been through my coaching programs and he's in Madagascar right now
Oh
because he
my
also
gosh.
leaned into, okay, well, what would I love? And I have his permission to share this. I would never share anything without permission, FYI. And so he had a pattern of not knowing what he wanted and had this pattern of really, doing what he thought everybody else wanted him to do or what he should do. And so it took him some time to discover what his dream was,
Hmm.
right? That voice, because I think for some people, that voice, like you said, that song, that dream, that vision, that your soul's calling, your heart's calling, it's there and it's loud. And for some people, it's there, but it's very quiet because they haven't had the practice in listening to it. And so he was one of those people where he had to really practice, you know, getting to know what it sounded like, getting to know
Hmm.
what it wanted for him. And so
Hmm.
through that, he's discovered his dream, and he's now working in Madagascar and helping to really develop training and increase the kind of capacity of the local workforce, and really just brings together all of his skills and talents. And I actually just talked to him before we hopped on this recording, and just to see him like with that greater aliveness. So
That's
yeah,
beautiful.
yeah.
Now, a couple of things that you said in there are very important. One, I do believe being a coach myself, and then finding I had to find my peeps
Yeah.
right first. Um, Not that I wasn't already. I think all of us sometimes we're doing some of it, the work, but we don't appreciate sometimes the importance of that investment in ourselves,
Mm-hmm.
and then to take us to that next level. And it's not that we don't have it within us, but having someone who's been there already, first of all, and that can kind of guide us through this wilderness to that promised land, and faster, right? And so we make these quantum jumps then when we go on and quantum lead, say, oh, you know what, I'm going to invest and exchange an energy with someone else that's going to move us into this, that help guide us toward around that, because you can do it yourself, but by yourself, but why would you when you can exponentially,
Mm-hmm.
right,
Mm-hmm.
um be in the midst of people's energy that just really feeds yours and helps you to grow. uh I don't know if you felt like this though, because I know I even did and still occasionally do. When I got ready to do this, like really do it, I was like, who's going to listen to me? Because, here I was multi-year corporate America, sales, marketing, professional and manager, even did some construction and architecture marketing, by the way, for large firms. So that's kind of interesting. So I know that group. But anyway, so here I was. I'd done all this stuff. Yes, I'm an ordained minister, but who's really going to listen to me in this space, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, and that's typically called imposter syndrome.
Mm-hmm.
I'm interested on your take on imposter syndrome. How?
Yeah.
How do we get through that?
Mm. So such I think such an important point, Lisa, and also to your point about find a coach or mentor, right? So if you're in this work, you only know what you know, right? And we all have our blind spots, we all have our learning edges. And so absolutely, as we evolve, we get to a certain point, but we 100% need those people who can actually see the truth of who we are and our capacity and our potential. And of course, as we're on this journey, we're going to have moments where we feel like, what the heck am I doing? Who's going to want to listen to me? Like, am I crazy? How am I going to pay my mortgage? Or, how am I going to pay my rent? And we have all of these thoughts coming up. And we've all got patterns, paradigms, programming about how we show up in our life, what we believe to be possible for ourselves, what we believe we're capable of, what we believe that we deserve. And without the support of people to hold a bigger believing for you, people who have been along the way, the pull of the paradigm, the pull of the pattern is so strong. It's like gravity. It's like gravity. So as you are this person, this light worker, this healer, bringing your gifts and talents to the world, like, you need to do your own work. This is this is a truth for me, is that we need to be in integrity with ourselves. And being in integrity means doing your own work, because if you don't do your own work, you're going to shy away from helping your clients move to those places. Right. And that's absolutely one of the gifts of my life, is the darkness I've navigated. And I had, one person tell me that, and I have many spirit guides and animals, but somebody told me that the raven was one of mine, because it navigates the dark and the light. Because I've been in the dark. Like, I'm very, I can go to the depths. I can go, and we're not going to pitch a tent there, but I can hold that space. And so for us, if we haven't done our own work, we're not comfortable. We don't know how to hold a container, right? And in this work of evolution and expansion, we're not wanting to spiritually bypass, right? It's not like la la la, love and light, everything's fine, right? It's like a tree. You have to do the inner work to get the outer expansion. And so as we are, of course, stepping into our green growing edge, right? We've all got kind of a comfort zone that we live in, that this is how I know myself to be. This is how I know to show up. This is familiar. And sometimes it sucks. Let's be honest. Sometimes that it's like the devil you know is better than the devil you don't, right? But it's familiar. And so when we start to expand and grow and to really step into listening to that song, the whisper of your heart, the calling of your soul, it's causing us to actually step outside of what we've known and how we've known ourselves to be. And so that's when the fear shows up. That's when the imposter syndrome shows up. That's when those little voices, who do you think you are? Who's going to listen to you? Right? What do you think you're doing here? This is ridiculous. Like, whatever those voices are saying, they're designed to bring us back down into our comfort zone, right? And kind of, biologically, we evolved that way to stay safe, because for much of our, much of our kind of history as Homo sapiens on this planet, like, there was actually an evolutionary benefit to being in that comfort zone, because it allowed us to live. But now we're kind of at a point where we're evolving past that. So that imposter syndrome is when you're showing up on the outside of the comfort zone. And there's a difference, and we kind of chat a little bit about this. There's a difference between fake it till you make it, which, is kind of one of those words that's kind of like thrown out there. And let me just back up a little bit. So for people listening, if you're thinking like, oh, like, yeah, I've totally got that imposter syndrome, you're not alone. So just know
Amen
that
to that.
first. You're not alone in that. You are not the only one. 100%. 100%. You're not alone with that. It's really common. It's really common with women as well in terms of the programming and socialization that we've
Absolutely.
had, right?
Absolutely. And we've
Yeah.
been through that. Like you and I have been through, I'm very transparent with my group, with my audience, right? My community. I've been through it. And
Yeah.
I can be completely honest right now.
Mm.
There are little twinges of it that show up
Yeah, of
every
course.
time I level up, every time I do something,
Yeah.
go to that next level,
Yeah. A
right?
hundred percent. A hundred
So
percent.
this
Yeah.
isn't something that Catherine and Lisa have not been through.
Oh yeah.
So just so you guys know.
Oh
So
yeah.
so we're
100%.
here with you.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Those voices are strong, right? And even same, right? When we're leveling up, when we're expanding our capacity, we're stepping more into our gifts, our talents, our power, our beauty, right? It takes some time for that to actually become solid state.
Mm,
And so we're kind of, I think of it like a balloon, right? So we're kind of blowing up a balloon, and we can be expanding, 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 and we actually want to slack it off a little bit to allow that new identity to really fully integrate at every level of our being, right? The kind of physical, energetic, emotional, spiritual, every level of our being. But then when we're on that next evolution, and sometimes those pieces are, or the steps, the evolution is almost, imperceptible. You can't even see how small it is, because
mhm.
it can be the unseen stuff that's happening. But then you get to a point where you have the sufficiency, and that's when you make that quantum leap. And often, what I've experienced and what I see with my clients as well is that when we're about to make that quantum leap is when those patterns, paradigms get strongest, because they can almost sense that, wow, she's about to leap here, so let's escalate to bring her back down. And so that imposter syndrome it's actually part of the process, right? Because as we
Mm.
evolve, we've never been that person before, so of course we feel like we don't know what we're doing. Of course, of course.
That's amazing. I love that explanation. I've never heard it stated that way, but it makes absolutely perfect sense because, Mel Robbins, I think it is.
Mm,
She's talked about the 5 second rule, right? That
yeah.
you get this fabulous idea, right? And that's your higher self speaking to you, saying, let's
Yeah.
do this. Yay, let's go for it. And she says you have exactly 5 seconds, five, four, three, two, one, before your 3D brain kicks in and
Yeah.
starts saying, okay, that's really cute and that's really nice.
Mhm.
However, remember, and it's
Yeah.
rapid fire of when maybe you tried something else outside the box, or what your mama might have said, what your daddy may have said, or those kids in high school were just like, oh my God, whatever the case may be, or the programming, that we receive from the world. I was just speaking on someone's platform just last night at the time of this recording, and made the comment that me, as a Black woman, single mother of three, statistically, my children, I should have never had the fabulous life that we did. And I certainly should not be a successful entrepreneur right now and a successful coach and sharing my light with the world. Not try to pat myself on the back. I'm just stating what I do. But statistically, they will say, nope, you shouldn't be able to do this. This should not be my life. And yet I ignored all of that
Mm.
and went and forged ahead, not without a lot of, there's a lot of growth and stuff, but we get it from everywhere, is my point. And so our brain does a fabulous job of collecting data and then processing it. I'm not going to say the brain isn't a great supercomputer. Your brain is. However, your brain is going to always play it safe. It's going to look at your present, and it's going to look at the past, and it's going to evaluate everything that you've ever heard. And anytime you may have faltered or things didn't work out perfectly. And it's going to say, yeah, girl, that's real cute and all, but you have this nice job over here, or you've got this over here. Let's just stay here and we'll maybe revisit this in the future.
Mm.
When really it ain't intended to revisit. It's really just intending to keep you safe, right? So I love the fact that I love that analogy that the imposter syndrome, if you will, is nothing more than the result of the programming that we've
Yeah.
received and us stepping outside of that and having the the strength and the courage to say no more. I'm going to expand. I'm sorry,
Yeah.
I cut you off, but that was
Yeah,
just
no, I
amazing.
absolutely 100%. And knowing that it's actually part of the process, right? Because I think
Yeah.
so often, we make ourselves wrong when it shows up.
Mm.
And the other piece is that failure is actually part of the process too. Think about it. Like if anybody's ever like had a child or seen a child learning how to walk, they don't just like, stand up and they're running around. Like they like stand up and fall down and stand up and fall down and stand up and fall down. But they don't say like, okay, I guess that's it. I'm just gonna like sit on my butt for the rest of my life. No, they keep trying, right? So it's the same for us.
Yeah.
It's the same for us. We're going to fail at some things.
Yep.
We're going to feel like an imposter.
Yep.
And what are we choosing to feed? And this was, when I realized this, I had a good friend of mine, say something to me, and this was many years ago, where I believed the truth was the depression. I believed the truth was that I was unworthy. I believed the truth was all of the ways that I'd failed and messed up. And, I was giving that my focus and my energy. And I just like took it on like it was an inevitable truth. And he said to me, well, why don't you choose to think something else or believe something else? And I was like, what? What do you mean? I could choose to believe something different? Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And now with the work that I do, I'm like, yeah, we can, 100%. But
Yes.
it takes some
Yes.
rigor.
Yes.
It takes rigor, and knowing that rigor, failure, feeling like an imposter is part of the process, right? So
Hmm.
if you have any of that stuff, it doesn't mean you're doing it wrong. It means you're in the game and you're trying, and that is a high five, pat on the head, shimmy, right?
Yes. Oh
Yeah.
my gosh.
Yeah.
Oh my
'Cause
gosh. Go
so
ahead.
often we are conditioned, taught, and again, we have like that, like you talked about the brain, we have this part of our brain, the reticular activating system. Its job is to like look at all of the infinite bits of information out there and cherry pick the ones that support what we're telling it to focus on. And
Hmm.
so if we're telling it, focus on all the ways I've ever failed, focus on how this could go wrong, focus on how I messed up, it's going to find evidence to support that. And for most of us, we've had quite some years in training it that way. And so when first of all, we know that we can actually tell it to focus on different things, focus on the ways I was amazing today, focus on how I showed up for myself, focus on how I was a powerful woman, focus on, the magic in the universe, focus on gratitude. It takes some practice. It's not like flipping a switch, to be clear. It takes some rigor. You're retraining it. But then pretty soon, what happens is you start to see those things. And they were there all along. They were there all along.
It's very rare that I'm speechless, but I'm speechless now because I'm literally going through the process of like,
Mm,
okay, what have I been told?
yeah.
And what do I still believe?
Mm,
Right? As I'm moving through these different stages,
hmm.
um, that could potentially be a block, right?
Yeah. And often what we've been told, by other people, it's not the truth. It's just their perception, and it's based on their own limiting beliefs, their own fears.
Hmm.
right? Because as we start to expand and to say, like, no, I'm going to take a stand for my life. I'm going to, and I don't know how. And to be clear, you don't need to know the how right away. So
No.
just put the how on hold, but just like making that stand, placing that energetic stake in the universe and saying, I am deciding that I'm going to live a life that I love.
Yes,
It
absolutely.
starts with that. It starts with that.
Absolutely. Um, Tell me your thoughts on this. So for me, all of the logic, right, especially as women. Now, I'm not trying to say anything against the men out there listening to me, but I'm gonna talk to my girls for a second, and actually, I'm gonna talk to daddies of daughters
Mm,
and husbands and significant
yeah.
others, right? We're told as women, we're denigrated for being emotional beings.
Mm-hmm.
And I did that to myself for years. I studied biochemistry, was in a male dominated, industries, always in male dominated positions in corporate America and this, that, and the third, right? Even in ministry, that's male dominated. You certainly don't have more women in ministry than you do men. So it was always think like a man, think like a man, think like a man, and never feel like a woman. But
Mm-hmm.
our emotion and our emotional state, the energy we put into motion, to me, is what is the superpower and what moves us past this logic, because
Yeah.
it's completely illogical sometimes for us to step out and release the safety net and be the entrepreneur and be our authentic self, right? So, talk to me about how balancing or allowing that emotion
Mm-hmm.
to grow and tap into the emotional intelligence has
Mm-hmm.
helped you through your process.
I love that. I say that I'm a super feeler. I'm like a super feeler, and that's my superpower. So for much of my life, right? I kind of really shamed myself, blamed myself, felt like I was out of control or whatever. And absolutely, our emotions they're kind of like a litmus test, right?
Mm.
Like it's a way of tapping into our intuition, into our knowing, and our emotions will guide us. And I like super simplify it with my clients is we don't have to label it, but does it feel expansive? Does it feel contractive? Right.
Mm.
So when it feels expansive, it's life giving. Maybe there's like a little bit of a zing, there's some joy there, right?
Mhm.
Like, oh, that feels expansive. So then what's the baby step you can take in that direction?
Yeah.
If it feels contractive, and often we label it like anxiety, fear, anger, depression, jealousy, whatever, we know what contractive feels like.
Mm-hmm.
And so many people are so used to living in that contracted state, right? And if you think about our nervous system, so many people are in that fight, flight, freeze, fawn, the sympathetic, we're kind of like amped up all the time because our world, really honestly, there's a lot of chaos and
Yeah.
division, and we're kind
Yep.
of used to that, right? That's become
Yep.
our normal. And so for many people, feeling contracted has become normal. And so, as we learn to work with our nervous system, and one of the simplest ways is with your breath, right? So, just in through your nose, out through your mouth like a straw, just in a gentle and easy pace, whatever feels good to you. When you start to do that, you actually shift your nervous system into that parasympathetic, and that's that rest, digest, create.
Mm.
And that's where you find those feelings of expansion. So that's kind of where you want to get to, is being able to notice, like, okay, do I feel constricted? Do I feel expanded? When I feel constricted, I notice, I pause, I breathe, I get into that expansive state, and then I take a step, right? Because then there's a different wisdom that's available to me for guidance. So, that being said, if you've had a pattern, and I was one of those people, of stuffing your emotions, of ignoring your emotions, of not processing things as you experience them, so there could be grief, trauma, like there could just be like a whole bunch of stuff piled in there, right?
Mm-hmm.
And what happens is that as we stuff those emotions, right,
Mm.
throughout our life, it's not like they go away, like they go in us and they
Mhm.
go in our body. And the more the stuff that we stuff, the denser they get, the denser they get, the denser they get. And then
Mhm.
they get to a point where we actually can't hold any more in. And that's when the smallest little thing sets you off. Like you have like, maybe like a little, like somebody cuts you off in traffic and you like lose your mind, right?
Yeah,
Or,
yeah.
like that's when you're like, oh my God, like my response here, my reaction is totally out of proportion to what just happened. It's because you're just like full, right? You're full. You've got no more capacity in there. And so knowing that, excuse me, if that is you, starting with the breath,
Mhm.
starting with the breath, right? Just shifting in, shifting in, shifting into
Mhm.
that calm. And then as you start to actually listen to the emotions, you've
Mhm.
got to clear them out. Sorry.
Yes.
You can't just ignore
Yeah.
them. So
Yeah.
you actually need to give yourself space because the emotions get stored in your body as energy, right? They
Mhm.
get stored in there. And so giving yourself space to just feel whatever is coming out,
Yes.
just feeling it, right, in like an appropriate safe place. Like you probably don't want to do that at work because there's like so much of that stored in. You're going to be showing up in ways that are not congruent with the situation. So, one of the things that I did, and this is kind of some real tangible stuff, is I actually would nest in my closet. I would go in my closet and bring in like pillows and blankets and tissues and a teddy bear and close the door because it was dark and small and like
Yeah.
an animal that feels safe in a cave, right? Like I
Yeah.
felt
Yeah.
safe.
Yeah.
So because I didn't know how to create that sense of safety for myself psychologically or energetically, I would physically do it and then I would just feel and
Mhm.
cry. And what that does
Mhm.
is it starts to discharge, discharge, discharge. And as you discharge, you're creating space for all of the joy and the happiness and the magic. And it doesn't come right away. So you got to do some discharging. The other thing that I love is to make a nest in your bed. So if like with pillows and blankets, and again, like it creates that kind of physical sense of safety. And you think about
Yeah.
babies when they're upset, we swaddle them when they're young because they're
Yes.
like, oh, they feel safe, right? So noticing for yourself what feels safe to me. So those are a
Yes.
couple tangible, tactical things you can do. Another way to start to get in touch with your emotions, to because really, like they are a beautiful guidance system. You are
Mhm.
connected to the divine, right?
Mhm.
And you want to be able to kind of like clearly receive the messages. Is to start to just ask yourself, how am I feeling in this moment?
Mhm.
How am I feeling in this moment? And if you're, kind of depending on where you are in that process, there can be quite a period of time where you're like, I don't know. I don't know. What's the feeling? I don't know. What the F is this? What? Right? Like, I don't know because it's just you haven't practiced. That's all. It doesn't mean you can't do it. It doesn't mean you're doing it wrong. You're actually doing it right. You're actually doing it right. So I just like fire hosed a whole bunch of info there.
Well, but it all feeds back into the don't fake it
Yeah.
till you make it.
Yeah.
Like you can't. You
Yeah.
have to be real with yourself first before you can be real with anyone else. And
Mm-hmm.
to me, the minute we get real with ourselves,
Mm-hmm.
that's when we get past that stinking imposter syndrome, right?
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
now we are really sure about who we are and
Yeah.
we're getting comfortable in that skin.
Yeah.
So don't fake it. Like if you're feeling a way, feel that way
Yeah.
safely. Don't be NSFW, not safe for work.
Yeah.
But feel it because it's
Yeah.
the only way you're going to get through it, right?
Yeah. And when you do that, you're creating space, right? You're creating
Hmm.
space for yourself to emerge, right?
Hmm.
And then one of the other, so this is another real tactical, tangible kind of thing that people can do is when we start with the vision of who it is that we're becoming, we get really curious about, who am I? Who is this woman, this man, this person seeking to emerge here? And imagine yourself 3 years out, and this is kind of a tool I use with my clients, 3 years out, and it's all worked out. Like, you are living the life you love. I've got a magic wand for people listening or
Yay.
watching. It's a gold star with silver ribbons.
We
I've
love the
got a
magic
magic
wand.
wand. So imagine that I've waved my magic wand and it's all worked out, and you're actually living the
Oh,
life that you would love, right? It's
yes.
all worked out. You're guaranteed to succeed. And so as you do that, and the reason we do 3 years out is it helps to relax the subconscious mind, which is like, well, how am I going to do that? And that's not realistic. And who do you think you are? And, we never did that before. So 3 years, it's like, well, I don't know, maybe it could happen in 3 years. So
Right.
it lets us tap into our mental faculty of imagination to
Yes.
really start to dream. And we ask, what would I love? Right?
Yes.
Love being the highest vibration. And when we ask that question, that's when we start to really tune into our heart and our soul and the expression of who it is that we became or became here to become. And so we get really curious about, and again, this is not a one and done thing. It takes some rigor, right? You gotta do the work.
Yeah.
And so we ask that question, we get clear on what does that life look like? And then we ask ourselves, and how do I show up in that life?
Mm.
Who is that man, that woman, that person,
Yeah.
right? What do they think? What do they say to themselves? How do they feel? What does their day look like? How do they dress? How do they stand? How do they sit as they're doing the dishes? What are they thinking about? How are they feeling?
Mm-hmm.
Right? What's the feeling? Because the feeling is the state. The feeling
Mm-hmm.
is the vibration. The vibration is actually what we send out to the universe,
Yeah.
right? And we attract who we are, not what we want. So as we are then getting curious and interested in who is this woman, how do they show up, we then start to show up as her, as him, as them now, because we can show up as them now. Then we're not faking it till we're making it. We are being her now. We're being him now. We're being them now.
That's beautiful.
And that's where we start to create that vibrational coherence, right? And then as we start to create that vibrational coherence with our future self,
Mm-hmm.
anything that's not on the same vibrational frequency will come up to release and repattern,
Mm.
right? Because you can't have abundance and scarcity, they're not on the same frequency. Love and
Mm-mm.
resentment, not on the same frequency. So as we start to really connect with the frequency of the person in our vision, who we came here to become, right? Then
Mm-hmm.
anything that's not a fit is going to come up. It's going to like come up to repattern or release.
That's beautiful. That is so beautiful. That was absolutely beautiful and absolutely amazing. Katherine, this has been life-changing and transformational for me. And
Aw,
I
aw.
know that it's been transformational for the community. Um, you have something very near and dear to my heart because I love a good guided meditation. You want to talk about what you are so wonderfully giving the audience as a thank you for listening to us today.
Oh, yeah. Thank you, Lisa. I would love to share that. So, I actually have a really powerful guided visualization meditation download, and it's actually going to help you tune into what is that vision for the life that you would love. And so, I'm going to guide you through a process where you're going to get clarity on what that looks like, and that's really going to help you to start the process of identifying who is this person, right? How are they showing up? And so I'll obviously give that link to you. It's available on my website. And then once people sign up for the download meditation, you're going to get on my mail list, my email list. I have a special 5-day challenge I've just put together. I'm like super stoked about it. So once you're on the email list, you'll kind of find it when the next one's running. And it's a 5-day challenge to expand your money mindset.
Ooh.
Because money is like a touchy topic for a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
And if you think about it, your life that you're creating, your vision of what you're doing, why you're stepping into this work is you want greater levels of abundance. And
Mhm.
abundance is not just about the money. It shows up in like there's so many ways it can show up for us. And
Mhm.
often we block it subconsciously so it can't come to us because we're wanting it,
Yeah.
but the door is closed or we're actually actively fending it off.
Yeah.
Right. And even thinking like when's the last time somebody complimented you and how did you respond? Right? Did you brush it off? Did
Mhm.
you like, I used to make a joke, oh, thanks, I just washed my hair, right? And
Mhm.
what I've learned is that that's actually saying, like, I'm not accepting this compliment.
Mm.
I am blocking it.
Mhm.
And when we block one form of abundance, we block all forms of abundance. So this
Ooh.
challenge is really about we're going to work with money because again, it's a touchy subject. So I want to like dive right into the deep end with people.
Yeah.
And we're going to uncover the 8 most common abundance blocks and then I'm going to show you how to repattern them. So that's coming up. My next one's coming up
Fabulous.
in April, but once you get the download, the meditation, you'll be on my mail list and you'll know when registration's open for that.
Amazing, amazing. And guys, you're going to want to receive Catherine's emails. You're not going to want to send them over to spam. This is valuable information with amazing opportunities. Um, Catherine, thank you. Let the people know what's your website, and where can we find you on the social medias, podcasts, all that kind of great stuff. Can you let the folks know how they can find you?
Yeah, thank you, Lisa. So my website is katalystcoaching.com and it's Catherine with a K, Katalyst with a K. So Katalyst with a K, coaching with a C.com. My socials are all the same Instagram, Facebook, Katalyst Coaching. My podcast is My Dead Dragon, and it's conversations with women who woke up one day and realized that no one and nothing was coming to save them. And so they made the decision to become the main character and heroine of their own life. And Lisa, I'm so freaking excited to have you as a guest on my podcast because I'm like really like we're going to be continuing this juicy conversation. So yeah, and
Definitely.
that's on all of the podcast channels. So My Dead Dragon and Katalyst Coaching. Katalyst with a K, like Catherine with a K, coaching with a C.
Fabulous. Thank you so much. And guys, for those listening on all the podcast platforms, that information will be in the show notes. And then for those that are watching this on YouTube, on Facebook, and on Instagram, that information will be in the description of this video.
Hmm.
Catherine, my new sister, thank you so much for being here. I
I've
so
got God
appreciate you.
bumps. I've got God bumps.
This has been amazing and transformative and transformational and all the things, and just absolutely love you. And please, guys, go and download that meditation, please, the visualization meditation. Please do. And then don't hesitate to sign up for her 5-day challenge, because it is definitely going to change your life.
Mm.
All right, guys, we're going to get on out of here. And as I always say, peace, love, blessings, and joy be unto you today, tomorrow, and for all eternity. We love you so very much. Namaste. Bye, guys.